What's up, family? It's your girl, Dr. Shonna. We're about to have this conversation about the incident that went down in Cleveland, Ohio, where the correction officers punched this woman in her face and maced the hell out of her with pepper spray. Or pepper sprayed her, not mace, but he pepper sprayed us. So we want to talk about that. We want to go over this case. We want to go over what we need to know. We need to go over how we need to start moving. And we need to go over a couple of things. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to need y'all to share the video. Share the video because, as always, it's going to be a lesson here. So I always recommend people get their pen and paper because we need to really start shifting the way we think. We need to start shifting the way we behave, the way we communicate with each other. We need to start shifting a lot of things. And sometimes, in order for us to make the shift, we have to become aware of what is actually going on. And unfortunately, too many of us are not aware. Too many of us are sleeping, but we're calling ourselves conscious. We're calling ourselves woke. But when we see bad behaviors like this, it just lets me know how many of us are actually sleeping. So this is not a judgment video, but we have to be critical about things that have happened. We have to examine things from a critical eye, a critical perspective. We need to be able to put aside our emotions and our feelings and really delve in deep on these kind of situations to see where we might share some of these behaviors in our own personal lives. And what we might need to change in our own personal lives so we can learn how to communicate with our friends, our families, right? Our cousins, our sisters, whatever the case is. We need to know how to communicate with our brothers and sisters, and we need to start retraining our brothers and sisters. The other day, let's get started. I shared a video about a young woman, a black woman, or a woman who looks like, from the video, she looks black from the video. She looks like she might be an American descendant of enslaved Africans. I'm not too sure. But she's a black woman in the video. And you see her walking, handcuffed. Her hands are behind her back. And she's walking. And there is a correction officer walking beside her. And one or two or few already in the room, from how you can see from the angle of the camera. And the camera is a perfect angle. A perfect angle because you absolutely see everything. No disputing what you see. And she walks into the room. And she's guided to a chair in which she's going to be restrained. So the officer, the white officer, or at least he appears to be white. I don't know if he classifies or identifies as white, but he appears to be white, walks behind her, and he starts to restrain her shoulder area while she's sitting down with her hands behind her back in this chair. After doing such, he tilts her chair back, catching her off guard, and you see one leg. In the video, it looks like a right leg. It could be a left leg, depending on how the mirror image is received. But it looks like in the video, her right leg comes up as she goes back. But she's not swinging her leg at anybody in that instance. She's not swinging her leg at anybody. Her leg goes back. Her leg goes up as her body goes back. Now, y'all know when we are sitting in a chair and somebody comes behind our chair and catches our chair and pushes back, we automatically get startled and we may lift the leg, we may lift the arm or hands, but she wasn't able to lift her arms because it was behind her back and restraint, and her shoulders was pushed back. So her leg goes up. The officer walks to the left side of her and somebody is still pulling her back and her leg goes up, and I guess he may have thought that she was swinging her leg. I doubt it because it looks like the whole thing was orchestrated. But I'm giving somebody the benefit of the doubt. He may have thought her leg was going up toward him, even though it absolutely wasn't. And in that process, he moves back and he punches her dead in her face. She's restrained. She's sitting in a chair. Yes, her feet are free, but she's not fighting this officer. He punches her as she is restrained, dead in her face. And then the other officer, who looks like he was a black officer, I don't know if he classifies as an American descendant of enslaved Africans, he looks like a black officer, takes out pepper spray and maces her continuously, full stream, in her face. The sister is restrained. Why? Isn't this outraging us? That little video only shows you a small little clip of what's going on. So I had to do some digging. And I had to do some research. And so I printed out the article. And we're going to go over this article, because we're going to learn absolutely what not to do. Right? We have to. We have to critically examine this article, because there are some very important key factors in here in which I see all too often in our community that has to be eliminated. So let's go. It says Cleveland, Ohio. And just so you guys can know, I'm reading from Cleveland.com is the metro section, Cleveland.com, just in case y'all want to read the article on your own. We're talking about Chantel Glass. Say the woman's name, Chantel Glass. She is a 29-year-old mother of 3 children who feared for her life the day that she was attacked by 2 Cayuga County jail officers who are now facing charges due to this incident. Cleveland, Ohio. Chantel Glass thought she was going to die over an unpaid parking or traffic ticket and a request to make a phone call after she was booked into the Cayuga County Jail last year. The simple request to let someone know she was arrested turned into a violent attack by 2 Cayuga County jail officers who were charged Monday with violating Glass's civil rights when they strapped her to a restraint chair, punched her, and shot pepper spray in her face. This is what happened. Now, when was this article written? Because I'm saying things like Monday. I want y'all to know this article is 2019, April 10th, 2019. April 10th, 2019. So this is 2 months ago. 2 months ago. The incident did not happen 2 months ago. She's finally being heard. Finally being heard, and officers finally have gotten charged. Glass, a mother of 3 children, suffers from asthma and could barely breathe during the 2 hours the officers left her tied to the chair in a small, isolated cell as the pepper spray burned her lungs. Let me stop right there. But most importantly, the reason why I stopped at this sentence here is because it's important for us to know that it doesn't matter, ladies, if you are a female. They will whip your ass too. Do you hear me? See, we got to understand. We got to understand that we don't get carte blanche treatment in America. And there's too many of us out here in La La Land thinking that it's not going to happen to us. 29 years old, mother of 3, took her in on a warrant of unpaid traffic ticket, an unpaid traffic ticket, a mother of 3. And the reason why I keep repeating that, because I want you to hold on to that idea when I start pointing out things that we have to do differently and we have to be consciously aware of in our daily surroundings, our daily activities, our daily behaviors. Because at the end of the day, if mama is in jail, and I don't know whether mama is married or not, but if she's in jail, what is going to happen to the children? If she's in jail, how are her children going to feel? Another traumatic incident just by her being in jail is traumatic to the family as a whole. And in some families, it's a financial burden. Because the village, unfortunately, for so many of us, is dead. And everyone starts looking at the fact that they got to care for somebody else's child as a burden. So we need to pay attention to that. Here's what Chantel said. She said, that day, I thought I was going to die. I sat in that cell. I prayed to God and I wouldn't die because I couldn't breathe. I prayed that I wouldn't die there. She wouldn't die there. The officers accused of strapping her down and punching her were Idris Farid Clark and Robert Marsh. Both were indicted Monday, 8 months after the incident. There is a videotape of this incident from the prison. Why are they indicted 8 months later? 8 months later. Why are they indicted 8 months later? I'm going to tell you why. See, you got to understand that there is a plot. And people may say, oh, that's a conspiracy. Say whatever you want to say. It might just be a conspiracy. But I am going to have to believe this in order for me to shift my thinking and shift my behavior, in order for me to be on guard and be watched, in order for me to move appropriately in a room full of vultures. I'm going to have a thought process while I try to make sense of what is going on. Because what I do know for a fact is our lives don't matter. 8 months later. 8 months later, this is their practice. Unless it's on video, unless it's being recorded, unless somebody can back you up who is willing to turn on any of the boys in blue, you'll be lucky if somebody comes for your justice. Right? 8 months later, Clark, Officer Clark, I believe that's the, I don't know who that is, but nonetheless, I was thinking that's the black guy, but I don't know. Officer Clark is charged with a second degree felony assault, and misdemeanor counts of assault, interfering with civil rights and unlawful restraint. Marsh is charged with assault, interfering with civil rights and unlawful restraints, all misdemeanors. Marsh was arrested late Monday and Clark remains at large. Why in the hell is Clark at large? At large. Well, don't you got to get fingerprinted and background checked when you go to work at a correction officer, a police department, parole officer, probation officer? Don't you got to get back? Why is he at large? It didn't say that he was fired. Why is he at large? Marsh and 2 other correction officers were scheduled for arraignment on Tuesday. Now, here's the thing. It says here that there were 5 people, 5 correction officers involved in this case. 5 correction officers that were involved in these criminal charges and civil rights violations. 5. The sisters chained to a chair, 29 years old, punched in the face, pepper sprayed with a continuous stream. And you know what she said? And this is what many of us would say, because we're sleeping. We're sleeping. Here's what she said. Glass, 29, said she was dismayed that Clark and Marsh were allowed to keep working at the jail for so long after the July 16th attack. So this happened July 16, 2018. And she is shocked and dismayed. This is not a game. And there it is. People so surprised that these officers have been placed on restrictive duty. And that they still have their jobs. See, in order for them to lose their jobs, justice would have to be served. Even with a videotape, evidence, proof, their superiors still say that they did nothing wrong. And that is always going to happen. So for her to say, I don't understand why they're still working, it's unjust. They're still working and still getting paychecks. It just lets me know right there she don't understand the system in which she's living in. And she doesn't understand, and people like her don't understand, that this is a game of chess. And we're still playing checkers because it's easy. Chess requires you to lose some pieces, lose some team members for the sake of the bigger picture. See, it requires too much for many of us. So we go in this world playing checkers because it's easier. We want to keep sending our children into the lion's den, sending them into their school systems because it's easier. We want to keep banging on their doors, knocking down their doors for jobs because it's easier. It's too hard to start our own. That's chess. I'd rather the checkers. It's too much to educate our own. That's chess. I'd rather the checkers. It's too much to be different and to stand out and to identify in your blackness. That's too hard. That's chess. I'd rather play checkers. I'd rather assimilate. I'd rather lose my blackness for the sake of acceptance and validations from the others. I'd rather shed myself of my history of enslavement and call myself something else. Because to do so is too hard. And it's that mindset that gets us in trouble. It's that mindset that gets us maced and punched in our face and gets us shot and killed and gets us discriminated against and gets us fired and gets us to be victims of redlining. It is that mindset. It's a very dangerous mindset to have. And we must shed ourselves of this poisonous, toxic way of thinking. So let me tell you how she ended up in jail. Let me tell you, sisters and brothers, how she ended up in jail. Y'all make sure you share the video. Share the video, because now we're about to get into the lesson. After I cover this story, we're getting into the lesson of how we have to start moving. We got to wake up. We got to start having the conversation. This needs to be a dinner time conversation. This needs to be a before you leave your house in the morning conversation. This needs to be a debriefing when after you come home from work or come home from school conversation. So here's what Glass said. She said she ended up in jail after her mother called Cleveland police when she and her sister had gotten into a heated argument. The officers had arrested both Glass, Chantel Glass, and her sister and booked them into jail. No charges were ever filed in that case. Now here's the kicker. Chantel was held. She was held in the jail because of a warrant for failing to show up for court for a traffic ticket that she had received 2 years earlier. Y'all got to pay attention to that. Y'all got to pay attention to the fact that this sister and her sister got into a heated argument and that their mother called the cops. That's going to be a part of the lesson. So y'all need to make a note on you. If you're taking notes, put a star right there. Put a star right there under the fact that their mother called the cops. Put a star next to the fact that Miss Chantel Glass had outstanding warrant on traffic tickets because she failed to show up in court for a ticket she received 2 years prior. Put a star next to that. There was a female officer, and according to Miss Glass, she said the female officer said, well, I'll just have to mace and strap you to a chair. So apparently when she's saying this happens before the incident. Whatever happened between her and the female, it resulted in the female threatening to strap her in a chair and mace her in the face. So as I was reading more about this, I started to ask myself what really happened. But here's what Glass did, and I want y'all to put a star next to this too. Glass said she had got angrier after the female officer said that she was going to mace her in the face and strap her in a chair. She had got angrier and banged on the jail cell and yelled at officers. She asked to talk to a supervisor. Clark, the one that's on charges, a supervisor, came to speak with her. Clark asked Miss Glass if she was going to stop banging on the cell. She said she'll stop once she gets to make her phone call. Y'all have got to put a star next to that. She said, when I make my phone call, I'll stop banging on the jail. You see, maybe this might sound wrong, but I'm going to have a transparent moment. I tell my children all the time, you cannot do what they do. And y'all know what I'm talking about. We all know the talk we have of our black children. And I say to my sons and my daughter, you cannot do what they do. Because if you do what they do, you might end up dead. See, you got to understand, when you are in the lion's den, you do not draw attention to yourself. Because it becomes your word against theirs. And lucky for Miss Glass, there was a camera in that room. Make a note toward that. Put a little star, because we're going to talk about that. There was a camera in that room. Why is that an issue? Why is that an issue? Because history tells us all too clearly that our brothers and sisters have been lynched in prison cells. Our brothers and sisters have been found dead in the prison system. And the narrative is always the same. We killed ourselves. No evidence, no proof, no reason to believe that that statement is true. But once it is out there, it is out there, and people eat it up and they believe it to be true. So when you are in the lion's den, you must behave in a certain way. And we're going to talk about that. So Miss Gazelle said that Clark placed her in handcuffs because she kept banging on the cell. Placed her in handcuffs and called for backup. She's inside of the cell, banging on the cell, asking to make a phone call, which is her constitutional, her civil rights. Her civil rights. You open up the cell, place her in handcuffs, and call for backup. Glass said Marsh walked up and immediately started roughing her up. So after Clark puts her in handcuffs, Marsh walks up and immediately starts to rough her up. Glass said she said they then ordered her into a restraint chair, which prohibits someone from being able to move. She says she walked to the chair without issue, but again asked for her phone call and hurled a few insults at the officers. So now she's bruising their ego. Now she's calling them all types of names. You cannot do what they do. We learned that from our beloved, may she rest in heaven, Sandra Bland. See, these sissies and punks got a bunch of weak egos. And the minute you call them a name, they want to show you just exactly who they are. Murderers and evil. They don't like you calling names. They don't like you insulting them because they have weak egos. They have fractured esteems. See, we got to understand when we're triggering people who can take our lives. We got to understand the game that we're playing. And I know this is not going to sit easy with some people, but that's okay. We are all entitled to our opinions. But I'm going to tell you this. When you are in the lion's den, when you are in a room full of vultures, your only goal is to stay alive. Your goal is to get out alive, untouched. She said she walked to the chair without issue, but again asked for her phone call and hurled a few insults at the officer. Marsh shoved her head at the officers, told her to stop resisting, even though she wasn't. Clark put his can of pepper spray about a foot in front of her face and unloaded half the can. Glass said she was pepper sprayed for about 7 seconds, but it felt like 5 minutes. She said everything was burning. I had bad aches and my eyes hurt, and I still didn't get my phone call. She told the officer she couldn't breathe and that she had asthma. Instead of taking her to medical treatment, they locked her in a small cell by herself, poured water over her, and left her there for 2 hours. She said she asked to use the bathroom several times and was denied. She urinated on herself. She wasn't allowed to shower the pepper spray off of her skin. Let me tell you something. Their behavior is indicative of the race soldiers from the 1800s and the early 1900s. This is what they do. And for some reason, we seem to forget this. So Glass continued. I really can't believe it happened. An investigator at the jail sought her out the next day and told her he was filing a report after watching the surveillance video of the incident. When she told some family members, oh, this got me heated. Y'all listen to this, brothers and sisters. When she told some family members and friends about what happened, they didn't believe her. See, that's many of us. Many of us are surrounded by family members and friends that are of the kumbaya mindset. Families and friends that won't believe your story. Family and friends that think that you're just making it up because they can't fathom it. They can't fathom it unless they see it for themselves. And that is a problem. That is a problem. These race soldiers are out and they are looking and they are responding and they are emotionally weak. They have low self-esteem and they have really big egos. In fact, many of them are also narcissists. We are playing with deadly people. So let's go over the facts and then we're gone. I'm out of here. I'm about to leave, guys. Share the video. Share the video. Let's go over the details. First of all, this all started because she was fighting with her sister. Fighting with the sister. And let me tell you something. Just that statement in and of itself is a perfect narrative to paint Miss Glass in a negative light. You see, you call the cops on your daughters because they got into a heated argument. And I get it, Mommy. You're a little scared. I get it. I get it. You're a little scared. You call the cops on your daughter, but you just gave them a narrative to go by. If she's fighting with her sister, the cops are going to say she was aggressive, she was resisted arrest, she was violent, she would have stopped kicking, she would have stopped spitting, she would have stopped hitting. That's why we handcuffed her. She was going to go get restraint because of her behavior. A perfect narrative. Just put it right in their hands. The fact that Mom called the cops lets me know that we still asleep. Like, we are still out here trusting cops to handle everything. Like, she is the mother. She is the mother. They are your children. What is going on? What is going on? Families are torn up. Families are off code. Families will kill each other. And to me, see, I said I wasn't going to curse, but this is what happens when I get passionate and mad. To me, that shit don't make no sense. So mom was definitely off code. Mom is definitely off code. Mom been drinking the kumbaya juice. Mom been eating and drinking with the enemy. Another thing, number 3, the traffic ticket that led to a warrant. See, when we're asleep, we get caught up in the shit. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, before my uncle died, he was murdered, shot and killed in the Bronx. My uncle said to us, always make sure you ain't got nothing on you that can check you. He played chess. So what you mean by that? Always take care of your shit. You don't want to do nothing that's going to land you in the enemy's house. We need to move different or differently. We need to move differently. Because you got to understand, the goal should be not to end up in the enemy's care. Not to end up in the lion's den. So what are the solutions? And I'm out. Here's some of the solutions. First of all, the first thing we have to learn how to do is undo these bad behaviors that we have. We have some bad behaviors and we got to undo it. Your family is the first line of defense. Stop fighting your family members. Our attitudes will determine the energy we attract to us. Keep your mouth shut. You get locked up, that's your time for you to strategize and think how you're going to get your ass out of this situation. Not yelling and screaming and acting a fool, banging on prison. No, no, no. I'm going to get myself out of this situation. You should be looking around to see where the cameras are when you walking. So you can know if some shit go down, what area you need to run to. Get a camera. To remember things like badge numbers. Get a system in your mind to remember those kind of things. Names and badge numbers. We got to undo these learned behaviors that are getting our asses in trouble. Study your history. See how your ancestors move. See how they organize and strategize. See how if something went down in a neighborhood, before there was a cell phone, before there was videotapes, before there was social media, when things went down in our neighborhood, we had runners, we had people that go back to get the information. Remember that game of telephone? Shit spread fast. Because we had to. Undo learned behaviors that are designed to get you in trouble. Another solution is we have to get back to community policing. And we have to restore our village. Because had there been a system in place, and if things got out of hand between the sisters, and we had community policing in place, we already knew, we would have already known who to call in that kind of situation. See, when the village is functioning correctly, we have the support systems. We already know who our children are going to listen to, who to call, who can we call for help and assistance. In this day and age, unless you absolutely must, calling the police should not be your first line of defense. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if these jokers are going to NRA meetings and they passing out secret secret information or attending secret societies and a hit has been put on us. But you know something? I'd rather keep that in my mind, because that'll dictate how I behave. And last but not least, what we must do, what we absolutely must do, is learn how to move in a room full of vultures. You got to understand, you are the prey. You are the prey. Where's your entries? Where's your exits? Where's your safety? Where's your cover? Your coverage? Who can you take? If you only can take one of them, who's the one you're going to lock on? Who's the one you're going to rock and roll with? See, we walk into spaces and we're not even aware of our surroundings. We even ignore our instincts and our gut feelings. I walk into a space, if I'm uncomfortable, I'm leaving. That's all I have to say to you guys, my brothers and sisters. I love each and every one of you guys. That article pissed me off. There's other stuff we got to talk about, but we ain't going to talk about it today. Be blessed. Like and follow me here on Facebook. Follow me on all my social media channels at Dr. Shonna. Share the video, and let's keep the healthy communication going in the community. I appreciate you guys for that. For a whole week, I didn't have to ban or block nobody. Nobody has gotten deleted this week. Some people dropped off on their own. That's good. That's cool. Get rid of yourself, right? But I will not hesitate to block, ban, and delete people who are against the movement. Y'all know who you are, who is in the movement. Let's just do better. Let's be better, and let's spread the message out there with other people. Be blessed. Peace.